If you are doing this in your intervals, you are wasting all of your interval potential. Welcome back to my Ironman Prep series, where I'm teaching you the foundations of Ironman training and how to master the basics as a parent, successful professional, and someone who wants to chase challenge amidst a busy life. All right, now before we get into this episode, I got something that I gotta give you. I talk a lot about training zones in this episode, bike power, heart rate, and so often I talk to beginners and they're just confused. What is zone 2? What should threshold feel like? And so I decided, let me just release the calculator that I've been using to set my zones for the past number of years. I have built out the Tribal Training Zone Calculator, and this is what I have been using for myself as an athlete, and it's what I use for every athlete that I coach. And inside of this calculator, I also got a video that's going to walk you through the exact tests that I do to set my zones, the information that you pull out of those tests, and then the calculator is going to give you heart rate across all forms of training, bike power, run pace, and more importantly than that, it's going to give you a lot of clarity, a lot of peace of mind. It's going to empower you to execute in your training and to have faith and confidence that you are on the right track, doing the training the way that you are supposed to and the way that you will get best. So click that link below, get access to that calculator, and plug in all the information that we go through in this episode. Now let's get to it. Welcome to the first high-intensity interval ride of Ironman World Champs Prep. Now, I'm going to get to what is going on in today's workout, but first, I got to give you the 2 keys to success when it comes to high-intensity interval training. Number 1, hard days are hard and easy days are easy. That is easily the number 1 mistake that I see beginners make, is that the hard days aren't hard enough and the easy days always drift to looking for just a good pump and a good sweat. When we can separate those, that is when the huge gains get unlocked. That is point number 1. Now, point number 2 is that high intensity intervals, and what I'm going to show you in a second, that does not mean just gassing yourself and going completely all out. We have zone structure that we're going to follow here. We can go off of power, off of heart rate, off of feel. I'm going to explain how those work together. But the key is that high intensity intervals are controlled. We're going hard, we're pushing ourselves, but it's not just this blasted all out effort out of nowhere. Now with that, let's get to today's training session. And the prescription today, this is a VO2 workout, but we've also got some threshold work going on. So I drew this out here. We've got 3 rounds of 10 by 40 seconds in zone 5 with 20 seconds recovery. So that is pretty much what's mapped out here. We got first set here, second set, third set. All right, now there are 3 real keys to why I want to do a workout like this in Ironman Prep. Number 1 is force production. I am getting a big strength building workout here, getting a lot of time in my zone 5, generating a lot of power on the bike. Number 2 is fatigue resistance. Because these recovery sets are so short, only 20 seconds, I'm not going to be able to fully recover. And I'm going to have to still get back up and produce the force to get back up into this zone 5 for 40 seconds. All right, now the third benefit to a workout like this and why this is specifically valuable for Ironman training is threshold development. Now, the reason that I like to do these short interval structures is because you get zone 5 and zone 4 benefit, and I'm going to explain the zone 4 threshold benefit with charting my heart rate here. So what we have going on, right, we got the zone 5 power, so we're getting force production, we're getting neuromuscular development, we're improving technique. But because of this structure of 40 seconds on, 20 seconds off, the heart rate in 40 seconds isn't going to have time to go all the way to the moon in zone 5, but also because the recovery is only 20 seconds, I'm not going to have time to fully recover. And so what is going to happen in a shorter duration interval set like this is that my heart rate is going to normalize in zone 4, right, below that zone 5, right? I sort of drew those out as zone 5. Heart rate is going to normalize in zone 4. Then it's going to be able to recover when I've got the 5-minute break. But then again, it's going to normalize here in zone 4. Now, the value of that, right, is that as my threshold increases, my heart rate threshold and my ability to sustain that threshold, that is going to make the 220 watts and the 135 heart rate that I want to hold in the Ironman, general guesses there, that is going to make that feel easier and more sustainable. So we got the zone 5 power, benefiting all those things I mentioned, but then we're also getting really high quality 10-minute blocks of threshold zone 4 heart rate work that are improving that top end development. So that is what we are taking on today. Let's go execute. All right, now for executing this interval workout, I'm gonna be going off of bike power. So my zone 5, my FTP is 300 watts. So my zone 5 is 315 watts to 345 watts. If you don't have power, zone 5 I prescribe as 95% effort, but here's a secret. When you're thinking about percent of effort and perceived exertion, you wanna think about the duration of the interval set. So for me, 95% effort would be across this 10-minute block of time right here, right? This is 3 rounds of 40 seconds and 20 seconds, so each one of these is a minute. So I want to be able to do 95% effort for that 10-minute set. Then I've got a recovery, and then I can repeat that process. It's not just 95% blindly all out. All right, we are nice and warmed up here. Intervals are going down in a second, and I want to share the first couple of things that I'm thinking about in the warm-up segment of an interval workout. So first thing is that I want to get my body pumping a little bit. So if I got like a long Z2 ride, I might just take 30 minutes, kind of easy, settle into it. But I've been riding for about 23, 24 minutes here, and it's pretty dynamic. I ride with some high cadence, 90 plus. I ride with some lower cadence, like 80. I start pumping power a little bit. I got up to, you know, a couple 30-second minute segments at like 250 to 300 power, getting the blood flowing. But then I even throw a couple segments in where I'm like even north of that zone 5 power, just short bursts where I'm getting muscle function going, I'm getting blood flow going. But more than anything, I want my heart rate to rise and then settle, so that the first time I rip into these intervals, I don't want my body to be like freaking out. I want to be warmed up. I want to be settled in. I want that first interval, that first 40 seconds to be fucking pure, baby. All right. Final little tip here is just on fueling. So I got 300 calories of sports mix in this bottle here. This is actually the first workout of the whole year that I'm using sports mix. I have used maple syrup and natural stuff for all of my ultra marathon training. And even though I just had the overnight oats right before this, you know, I just want to get this dripping a little bit. I've had a couple of swigs, you know, nothing crazy you can see here. But I want to get this process started so that when I get into these intervals, my body's already in flow a little bit. I just took a leak, had like 32 to 48 ounces of water before this started. And so we are ready to roll, and we're about to bang these things out. Let's go. All right, we are through 2 sets here. We got 1 left. And I gotta give you a little interval tip on heart rate recovery. So in these 5-minute sets, in between 1 and 2 and 2 and 3, these recovery sets, my goal is to bring my heart rate as low as possible. And the secret to that is big exhales. The human body's limiting factor when it comes to breathing rate and the ability to recover is not our ability to take in oxygen. Doesn't matter. That's not our limiter. Our limiter is the ability to discharge CO2. And that is happening in every exhale. And so this is a tip that you can take to any sport of endurance. You're thinking about in a swim, if you are gassing out and short of breath, you gotta be powerful underwater, sending all that air out. It's not gasping for more when you turn to breathe. Same deal, thinking about run intervals or maybe the end of a race. You're running hard, your heart rate is super high. It's all about how can I get the CO2 out? How can I let the body relax? How can I make new space for oxygen? All right, we are through the intervals. Woo! And I can't believe I forgot to tell you maybe the most important part of interval execution. If you are doing this in your intervals, you are wasting all of your interval potential. And that is the idea of stopping in the middle of your interval set. So I just had 3 sets, 10 minutes, 5-minute recovery between the sets, no stoppages. Got to roll right through, got to get the full 10 minutes of threshold work at a time, got to get the full 3 sets all together. I'm a big fan, you notice why I peed right before the interval set. I want to make sure I can roll through that thing, no stops. And so that is a huge beginner mistake that I see is guys, they're going so hard that then they're like, I gotta stop and take a break if I want to be able to go that hard again. I had a guy doing that with some run intervals back in the spring, and we looked into it and I'm like, bro, you are doing these run intervals like a full minute per mile faster than your zone prescribes. Like, you gotta dial them back. You gotta execute better. High intensity is controlled, and we want the full fitness development of the set unbroken. Boom. All right, we are back. Successful interval ride. I will check in on the data on the computer. I just gotta like hammer home this point, right? Because if you pause the interval set right here, let's say you pause it right here after like 4 or 5, right? But then often if you pause it there, like then I see guys, they'll pause it then in between set 1 and 2. Then all of a sudden they pause it again right there. Then they're running through an intersection and they got to pause it right there. And now all of a sudden, what's supposed to be this complete section of high quality work is now completely broken, and the heart rate is no longer up in that zone because it's always coming down, right? And so now all of a sudden, let's not have this drop. But that is just one way where we want to make it really high quality, right? We don't want to have these broken, interrupted, and now all of a sudden the heart rate distribution and the idea of that threshold work is kind of out the window if you're doing that. All right, so I figured, listen, if I'm making a video and talking bike data, let's just get right inside Training Peaks. So that is where we are. This is the exact data from the workout that I just did. And I want to walk you through a couple different things that I am viewing as measures of success for this workout. So first thing that sticks out to me, let's just first call out what's going on in this chart. So red line is heart rate, purple line is bike power, green line is miles an hour, and then yellow line is RPM. So let's just first look at heart rate, hide others, and we can see that this was pretty much exactly what I expected, where the heart rate starts to normalize in that threshold zone. So for me, I'm pulling this little segment right here. This is 10 minutes and 2 seconds, right? This is the first set. And my average heart rate is 154, which for me, that is right in the low end of my threshold zone. And that maps really well to what I'm looking to get out of this workout, where the power is zone 5, the power is high force production, but the fitness development is going to be comfortability and durability at that threshold zone and the ability to hold that high threshold. Now, let's also just check in on the total zone breakdown of my heart rate in this workout. So for me, right here, zone 4 threshold is 150 to 166 beats per minute. And so I can see I spent 28 minutes of this workout in that threshold zone. There's almost no time in zone 5. Very, very little time, right? That's 167 to max for me. And I only spent 27 seconds there. So like I mentioned earlier, right, this is a zone 5 plus on power, but it's a threshold fitness developer. We also got some time in zone 3, tempo here, and then zone 2. Now, the interesting thing that I learned from this workout is that my bike power has gone up since the last time that I tested. What you can see here is that I spent 15 plus minutes into my zone 6. And I knew that I was riding higher than that 315 to 345 watts, but I could also feel that it felt good and that it would be sustainable for me. So let's go ahead and check back. Let's bring watts back up on the screen here. And you can see, right, in some of these first ones, I'm hitting 380, 360, 395. And so I knew, oh, that's higher up, but I can check into the rate of perceived exertion. I'm at like that 95% effort. And I'm like, I could feel out that I can do this well for the duration of all of these sets. And for the most part, I'd say that I was able to. Even in this last set, I'm up to 404. Only reason that this one was a little bit low is that I hit a turn. And so it was a little bit imperfect. I had to tap out on that interval set a little bit before the end, but not the end of the world. Overall, we're thinking about a very quality interval structure right here, right? We have 3 very high quality 10-minute sets at that threshold inside of a total 40-minute window. We'll see right where we start here. I started, let's just call it right there. You know, we got about 40 minutes right there where I'm right at the low end of that threshold. And so again, mapping this all to Ironman, I'm doing these intervals of, 370 to 400 watts. That's going to make my Ironman watts feel a lot more comfortable. And also, I'm riding that line of threshold, right, where I'm up into 150 for 40 minutes straight, 154, 158, 161. That is going to make the 130, 135 that I'm looking to ride in this Ironman feel more comfortable as well, right? I'm improving my force production. I'm improving my body's ability to generate force under fatigue, better lactate clearance, better threshold management. All that is coming to life right in this workout here. Boom. All right, so a lot of times beginners will ask, should I do intervals inside on the trainer or outside? And there are 4 things that I think about considering when I'm deciding whether it's a workout that should be done inside or outside. Accessibility, effectiveness, skill development, and fun. Accessibility, if the trainer is a lot more accessible, if you have to drive to where you're gonna ride, trainer might be a better option. For me, I can ride right out of my house, so accessibility is not really an issue. Effectiveness. The trainer can be really valuable for indoor power numbers if you don't have a power meter outside, or if the roads around you just aren't set up for you to execute really high quality intervals, the trainer might be a better option. 3 is skill development, and this is where the outdoor rides really shine. In that ride today, I'm riding 30 miles an hour at really strong power numbers. Like, I'm having to work on controlling the bike, I'm having to work on my gear shifting, keeping my cadence and my rhythm effective so that I'm not out of sync. Those things are a little harder to develop inside. And if you are training for a race that has a lot of variable terrain, maybe Ironman Chattanooga, Ironman Nice, like I'm training for, you really want to develop those outdoor bike skills. Now, if you're training for a race that's super flat on the bike, maybe Ironman Florida, maybe Muncie 70.3, that skill development is going to be a little bit less important, and you want to be able to just develop the power and the heart rate control on the bike. Now, number 4, super important, fun. Like bike training, endurance training, triathlon training, this has got to be fun. And to me, like, it's so fun to go ride my bike. Woo! It's beautiful, it's summer, I want to be outside. And so to me, easy choice, rode outside today, but there are indoor benefits. Just got to consider your setup and what race you are training for. All right. Now that we have understood how to effectively execute an interval workout, let's talk about how we can progress intervals week over week and how we can fit them into the overall plan and build towards race day. So we will start here with interval progressions. There are 4 key ways that you can progress intervals. Number 1 is increasing speed and power. Today's intervals I did maybe like 370 to 400 watts. If I did them 420 to 450 watts, that would be more challenging, and that would be a step up from the intensity of this interval today. Number 2 is total work. So the way to increase total work could be more sets. I did 3 sets of those 10 rounds of 40-20s. If I did a 4th set, that would be more total work in the workout, and that would be progressing week over week and force the body to build and adapt. Number 3 is work to rest ratio. So today's workout had a 2-to-1 work to rest ratio. 40 seconds of work, 20-second rest. If we wanted to add more work, make those intervals a minute long, that would make that workout a lot more challenging, right? So that would be another way to progress it week over week. Or we could manipulate the recovery interval between overall sets. We had 5 minutes today, but if I only did 3 minutes, that'd be a little bit harder to get the body ramped back up for the next set. And finally, number 4 here, length of work interval. So A good example there is that we did 3 rounds of those 10 by 40 20s. If we did 12 of the 40 20s or 15 of the 40 20s, that would make that workout more challenging. That would require more workload. And so when we think about building out a plan, we want elements of this to be stacking week over week. It is the exact same concept as progressive overload in the gym, where every week we are adding more demand and we are forcing the body to adapt. All right, final step here. We are punching through, and I pray to God that this makes sense. I'm gonna show you exactly how this is coming together in my plan, how I am using these interval progressions to build out the exact roadmap in my Ironman build. So episode 2, we already talked about how the Ironman build is 12 weeks long, but really, we're just looking for 2 windows of time where we can insert blocks of structured interval progression. And today, basically just kicked off the first block for me. This is a 3-week progression. Now, let me explain how these principles of interval progressions are coming together and exactly what I am doing here. So, week 1, Ronestad, we've talked all about it. Basically, the idea here is the metabolic effect is that we had 3 rounds of 10 minutes in Z4 with 5-minute recovery. So it was 30 minutes of total work, but we had 2 5-minute recoveries in between. Well, next week, my key high-intensity session is a sprint triathlon that I'm doing locally here in Boulder. And that is going to be the same amount of total work. It's going to be about 30 minutes of riding in Zone 4. I'm going to be running after that too, of course, but thinking about bikes specifically here, that is going to be 30 minutes in Zone 4, same as this was, but what if we manipulated? So it's probably going to be less speed and power. I'm probably not going to do the sprint tri at 400 watts. Total work is the same. That's like 30 minutes in Z4, but my work to rest ratio has changed. I'm not getting the 5-minute breaks. So this is a progression here, even though the total work stays the same. Now let's wrap it up and see how week 3 progresses even more. So week 3, I am gonna be doing over-under intervals. Over-unders, let's get into the prescription here. It is basically 2 20-minute sets, and each 20-minute set is 5 rounds of 1 minute in Zone 5 and 3 minutes in Zone 3. And so what do we have going on here? Okay, well, the total work has increased, right? Total work right here. We have bumped up from 30 minutes to 40 minutes. Speed and power of that total interval set is actually going to be more because instead of just doing the recovery like was in the Ronestad intervals, I'm going right down into Z3. So that's still hard tempo work, 250, 270 watts, something like that. And the length of the work interval is progressing, right? So we've got 20 minutes that's happening straight rather than these were 10 minutes straight. And so you can see how these are starting to flow, right? It's not exactly perfect on a stair stepper of changing just one. It's kind of all of these things, right? Speed and power, total work, work to rest ratio, length of work interval, and we are just stacking more work week over week. And then we get into a deload week where I'm still going to be doing significant volume, but I am not going to have a structured interval ride that week. I hope that helps you exactly how to build out your Ironman progression with structured blocks here for progressing your bike interval training.